My name is Arthur Maxwell Powell II, and today we have my brother Chinedu Nwokeafor. He is an activist, orator, and proud Nigerian. He advocates for cooperation, collaboration, and black excellence in education. He has led major peaceful protests in the Baltimore area since 2012. He prides himself on being a voice for his community, as well as a leader to his peers. Also, he was a 2018 Forbes 30 Under 30 scholar, a China-U.S. Relations Fellow at Harvard University for Project Pengyou, and has been a plaintiff for the HBCU Equity Lawsuit. Currently, Chinedu serves as a minority business liaison at the illustrious Morgan State University. Ultimately, Chinedu envisions a career with the White House Initiative on HBCUs under the U.S. Department of Education. This episode, Chinedu and I converse about the youth, systemic racism, mainstream media, being led by God, fighting for justice, and disrupting order. It is an honor to interview my brother Chinedu Nwokeafor. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the episode. He has really been committed to uplift, inspire, and encouragement for the Black community as a whole. So we really appreciate you joining us today, my brother.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's just start off out the gate with a very serious question. I'm big into definitions. I'm big into how people define certain words for themselves and define certain terms for themselves. So can you please help us understand the meaning and the purpose of the word protest or the action protest?
So to me, protest, we all heard Martin Luther King saying that protest is the language of the unheard. But I think it's a little bit more than that. In life, there are certain thoughts and ideas that we have in our head, certain pains that we feel, and we don't know how to manifest them into actions. And protest is exactly that. It is a language of action. So it is everything you thought of, everything you imagined, personified in an actual movement of doing something. When you're hungry, you say, I am hungry. When you're tired, you say, I am tired. When you are protesting, its language is not in what you say, but more or less your movement, your body getting up, you demonstrating yourself.
Right.
It's communication within itself. So that's what the meaning of protest is to me.
Beautiful. So why is protesting important? Because we have so many people in society that will say, well, y'all just talking, y'all just griping, y'all been saying the same thing over and over, and nobody got nowhere for marching and for protesting and for picket signing. So why is protesting important?
Okay, if we're going to stick with my definition, let's go to school real quick. When you're in class and you're being lectured to, what is the most important part after you're being lectured to? The demonstration, the practicum. So I can assure that what was discussed was fully understood, because discussing alone does not mean or does not breed understanding. So at times, the demonstration in itself, its purpose is to actually demonstrate that what I've talked about has meaning, it has virtue, and it's also to qualify what I'm talking about with a greater value and a depth of importance and an urgency.
So is that why you decide to protest? Because you want these issues to be dealt with urgency, with the quickness?
Well, somewhat, but my protesting history has less to do with me and more to do with God. I just follow the instructions that I'm giving. That's what I do. So when God tells me to move, I move. And I think when you think about destiny or manifesting your destiny, that is sometimes the hardest part, is following instructions from an instructor that's not telling you, do exactly this. God didn't tell me verbally. He made me feel something. So I've always felt something, at least since I was a young baby, since I was a young child. What I do now is no different than what I felt then. It's just that nowadays it's giving more justification. When you're younger, they call you being rambunctious and youthful exuberance. And when you're older, they call you being an activist and being astute. So it's always been here. I've heeded the call in a different manner at this age.
So I want to dive into that part where you said that you're just led by God in all that you do. I want to ask this question. What is the relationship between justice and God, or justice and Jesus, or justice and Muhammad?
I think the relationship between justice and anything religious is that people personify this idea that justice is silence, and Jesus is silent, Muhammad is silence, that we are all living in this kumbaya-esque world of dealing with Jesus, God, etc., when it becomes to justice. Justice is fought for. Okay? When we don't like, I think what happens is we don't like the way it's done in this day. And I think because a lot of people have fought for justice differently. See, when you look at the Bible tells you so many stories, some very graphic, about justice for God, through God, by God. But now we live in this generation where people like to act as if, oh no, let's come and talk and sign declarations. Lest we forget that when Moses was taking the people through the sea that was parted by God, the burning bush was there, and the soldiers went after them, and the sea closed on them.
My God.
And slaughtered. That's justice. And I think the problem is, because Christianity, especially in the Americas, was used to pacify Black people especially, you now see people who are debating, how do I move? Because the thing of the matter is, when you think about justice, I always say this, I will always use the military idealism. I love the justice of being an American. I love the justice of having my Constitution. I love the justice of having my rights. But to have those rights, many other people have to go and fight for those. They're going fighting in Iraq, fighting in Afghanistan, fighting in China, fighting in Europe, whatever. They fought to make sure that you and me could just be on a Zoom call casually on a Tuesday morning.
And still
so
are.
I think, there we go, and still are. But I think for Black people in their Black growth, in their Black identity, they feel as if we need to keep our hands. If we are following best practices, justice is dirty and it gets very messy. And freedom has a very expensive price that all must be willing to pay with their lives, with their cleanliness, with their everything, if they want it, if they really want it. Because we honor, in a month, we'll honor people from the American Civil War who died on all sides. We honor them. They weren't sitting there saying, let's just do legislation. You need both. Before the diplomats go in to do diplomacy, the army clears the way. So it's the same order of operations in Black liberation.
Yes, sir. How did you particularly get ready for or prepare for protesting?
In what way?
Not just bringing water and bringing a mask or getting certain type of clothing, but how did you get prepared in any other way? So whether it's mental, whether it's spiritually, whether it's psychologically, how did you get prepared to go to a protest?
If I'm being honest, I don't prepare. I just do it. There's no proper way to prepare for what God has in store. If you remember the Bible of Jesus and the fishermen, he said, put down put down your fishing rods and follow me. And that's how I feel when I protest. There's no plan. There is no idea behind it. I feel it, I do it, and I ask no questions.
So can you describe what happened? Well, how many protests have you been on?
Many. Been doing it for 8 years.
Count at this point.
Yeah, doing it for 8 years.
But just pick one of the most potent experiences that you have protesting, whether it's a recent one or whatever. Just describe to me the experience of protesting, like on the way there, while you're there, and when you leave. You can pick a positive experience, negative experience, it doesn't matter.
It's exhilarating. You never know what's going to happen. I never can. Also say I don't prepare because I don't know what I'm preparing for. One of the most interesting ones was literally 2 weeks ago, Friday, Saturday, whatever, Friday. And what happened was I was preparing for this protest to go as a participant. Yeah. And the guy who threw it, he needed help and he asked, who knows how to do this? So I gave ideas and they were like, okay, yeah, you need to be in the front. Said, okay. So now all of a sudden, because I was in the front, I was looked at as the leader. And me, like I said, I move with the spirit. I try to follow all legalities of the country, but I also don't at the same time, because a protest is a disruption of order. And the problem is George Floyd being knelt on for 8 minutes and 48 seconds was a disruption of order. So in redistributing that disruption, let's disrupt traffic, let's disrupt the economy, let's disrupt the flow of money. So we did that. And what was interesting is this is the first time I ever almost got arrested. The police came up to me and let me know, like, you're the leader of this. If you don't contain you'll be arrested. And I knew that was all just, a scare tactic. First of all, the first question you should ask me is, are you scared of being arrested? I'm ready, been ready. So you want to arrest me, arrest me. But it didn't happen because I knew my rights. Now, I won't say I was scared. It was a little slight concern. So I'm like, if they arrested me, what happens to the rest of this protest? Mm-hmm. But that's how I think. But we prevailed. Thing happened. And that's the thing. Protesting is one thing I just never fear, because I know the moment that I show fear, I can be stopped, I can be controlled, I can be curtailed. So I don't fear. But when it's over, there is a lot of time for mental flossing, thinking, engaging, remembering, and trying to still be sane, because I'm a person. See, when I'm protesting, I'm a product. I believe I'm a person. And I think people forget that. When I'm in protest mode, I'm performing. You will not see any problem in my life. You will not see any issue. I'm there for the purpose. But once I leave that arena, that's why I said God comes through me and holds me in that moment. And then he slowly leaves when I'm finished, because I become a person again, and I no longer can turn things on and off. The pains of before, they reemerge. And sometimes they hide themselves.
Ooh. That was potent. Do you think that mainstream media and major news corporations have reported on protests accurately?
No, and they're not supposed to. They should, but they're not supposed to in this day and age, because you have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of mainstream media? And it is not to give news. It is to get ratings. America has turned into a world where ratings is all you care about. When I get off the Zoom call, I might ask, how was the quality of the call? When you get off a customer representative, what was the quality of the call? When you get off of an app, could you rate our experience? And there is money in ratings. And I learned that when I worked at a telecom company. More than selling the phone, we sold phones, more than selling phones, it was our promoter score. How satisfied were people? So when you put satisfaction, when you monetize satisfaction, you can now control. If 70% of the customers said that they liked when a Black person dealt with them, back to the phone example, they'll hire more Black people. It's data. It's qualitative data, if you will. So that's where we are with media. They're just providing ratings as well as providing news. People are not concerned about being great journalists. and stuff like that. Because it doesn't matter how great you are and what you studied. At the end of the day, if your journalism isn't bringing me ratings, you're not going to be on my network. And that's what media has done. The great thing about social media now is that it gives other media, you look at Roland Martin, Unfiltered, it gives people like Roland Martin, great journalists, the platform to do what journalists are supposed to do. Provide cutting edge news with or without the fervor of ratings. So that's my answer to that question.
What can we do to end systemic racism in our society? Or not even end, but work toward the end of racism? So I don't think that racism is going to be gone during our lifetime. Or I mean, it's hard for me to even imagine a world without racism because it's so embedded in my understanding of history. But what can we do to fight against systemic racism in society as a whole?
Yeah, I'm glad you corrected yourself because it'll never end. What we could do is ask ourselves this question: are we paying attention to what systemic racism is? Are we paying attention to what system? If systemic racism is the root of this evil that America is at, as we pay attention to the root, are we paying attention to its branches, its stems, its leaves, and its fruit? And that is what's important. You might never be able to uproot the tree, but you can also cut the tree and prevent it from growing. You can cull the tree. And I think that's what is important. And what we could do is everyday stuff. Your boss talks crazy, you say something. Don't have a mindset of, I don't want to lose my job. See, systemic racism works when you have something to lose. When you don't have something to lose, it's choked at the neck. It's choked at its breathing point, because when you look at two different movements, whether you look at the Martin Luther King or the Malcolm X, both movements surprised systemic racists. Martin Luther King and his, nobody, listen, white people were protesting a month or two ago about haircuts. Talk less of Black people getting bit by dogs and still showing up. That's Martin's movement. Malcolm's movement was by any means necessary, organized. If that means we got to shoot, then we got to shoot. Both surprised them because both together, used properly, help and can help to strangle systemic racism. So when you ask what can we do to stop, we can do it all. We can't settle on one solution because racism doesn't start with one problem. It's a multitude of interlocking problems. So we need a multitude of interlocking solutions. So just to be Black, I'll just say this. We go to cookouts, we get hot dogs, hamburgers, beans, and you know how they all sit in the same plate? And they're different stews that come together, make it taste better. It's the same thing with ending systemic racism. Bring all your ideas, because all of them will stew together and work to end it.
Beautiful, beautiful. What keeps you hopeful that our descendants will live in a better world?
What keeps me hopeful is the youth. The youth of every generation, of every time. It has always been the youth who are different from those who came before them that will challenge the status quo of what it means to fight. It will always be that, and it will never not be that. The exciting thing is we never know what the next generation has to offer us. And I think that is what I look forward to, the youth. Because they will always, they have the most to gain and the least to lose.
Beautiful. I just wanted to end on this question. What charge do you have for the people that are listening and that are watching? I think that this was very, very, very potent interview. Some interviews are long and watery. Some interviews are long and potent, but this one was a pretty short one, and it was pretty potent. So I want to end it on a charge for our viewers and for our listeners to do something and to be active. What can people do, not just today and not just for this week or for their moment, not just like when all of this attention is on Black Lives Matter or just the minimum of Black Lives even mattering in general. But after the dust settles, from now until after the dust settles and beyond, what do you charge people to do?
I charge people to do. The issue of the world that everybody keeps thinking and theorizing, and theologians are sitting in the pulpit and they're creating these scripted scriptures and scripted sermons about if the da 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 da, do. And I say this all the time, and I go back to one of my first examples about practicum in education. When you look at all of the practice that we get of the world, all of the training that we get of the world, if we're not doing the thing, the training is for naught. What's the point of training to be a lawyer to never practice? Training to be a doctor to never operate? We have to actually do. And you don't wait to do. You do and you learn. And I think as you rear towards or process towards adulthood, it is this theoretical idealism that bemoans that you must have it perfect to do. This is why I always go back to the youth and children, because children are beautiful to study. A child does, then learns. An adult learns, then does. Issue is, sometimes when an adult learns first, he learns so much that he ends up not doing anything. And you close your eyes and 10 years have gone back and here in front of you. So people need to do, ask questions later. History will fix itself. And that's what I learned when you read the history books. A lot of these uprisings or revolts or rebellions, no one knew it could work. Do something, anything. And there's so much you could do within your own jurisdictions. If you're a writer, write about the history you see. Let's not forget Francis Scott Key, the racist who wrote the Star Spangled Banner. He was literally writing poetry. Oh, say, can you see? That was his contribution. Write what you see if you're a writer. If you're an actor, create entertainment based off of what you're doing. If you're a singer, take the Nina Simone approach and make a soundtrack of the movement. If you realize through every movement, we always go back with music. Yeah. We don't have music of today that represents that, There's always something that you can do. You can name any profession, whether it's a white collar, blue collar, or black market profession. Everybody can do something, because at the end of the day, good or bad, the end will always justify the means. And no one really cares. This is America. You get to do whatever. This is the land of a stolen land that we end up calling home, and justifies the means, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all hate that it was stolen. None of us are leaving. So the point I'm making when I say that is, do first, ask questions later. Do and learn. Don't learn and do. Sometimes in that learning process, we become so learned that we end up with degrees and we get lost in being doctor and emeritus this and emeritus that we're not doing a goddamn thing but announcing privilege. So just do.
Beautiful, man. Hey, this was a beautiful interview. Thank y'all so much for listening and watching. Like I always say, stay encouraged, keep the faith, keep striving, keep believing in yourself. You can do anything. Don't let anybody tell you can't do something, because haters gonna hate. Now, honestly, tell somebody that you love them, but particularly a Black person. Tell a Black person that you love them, that you care for them, and that you're listening to them, not just hearing them, that you're attentively listening to their experience, to the voices of their ancestors, through them, by them, for them, okay? Support your local creatives, your local journalists, your local artists, your local actors, your local everything that are Black. Your Black actors and your Black local, it's entertainers, business people, whatever. I just want to add this part. I thought that it was ironic when I was living in Vegas, I didn't know who Frederick Douglass was until I went to a community college. I went to a university right out of went to community college, and I didn't know who Frederick Douglass was. And now this is me in a summer class with a 0 point something GPA.
I've been there.
Lying to my mama about my grades, you know. Lost my full scholarship to UNLV. And I'm in a summer class at a community college, and Professor Arnold Bell, a Black dude, who came to class every day in a full 3-piece suit. Ball guy. Now he's Dr. Arnold Bell. He came first day of class, he sat everybody down. He started talking about Frederick Douglass. And he said, and like everybody had like a blank look. Now, mind you, I'm the only Black male in the class, okay? Sat everybody down. And he was just like, hey, you know, Frederick Douglass, da, 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 da. Everybody's looking at him like, who is this? So he pointed me out at the whole class, and he was like, you don't know who Frederick Douglass is? And I'm like, I don't know. He said, class canceled. He literally took me aside and explained to me who Frederick Douglass was. The same day I went to Barnes & Noble, bought The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, the first out of the 3 autobiographies, and read it the same night. The Tupac Shakur said that the curse is when you are given the voltage, but you don't do anything with it. That's the curse. And what Nwokeafor just did, Mr. Nwokeafor just inspired somebody. He just just lit that fire under somebody's behind, to do, to act, to serve, to listen. And through all of that, you are bringing justice to the captives. You are bringing love to those that are disenfranchised and that are hurt. And through the empowerment of Professor Arnold Bell, explaining to me who Frederick Douglass was, you know, I've been able to do one of the books after that, and I've just been building on top of my African American experience, and then it led into my African experience. And so, love yourself, know about yourself. This is a journey particularly for Black America. And not only do we have to work on ourselves, but we also have to put in the work to dismantle the system of racism, of white supremacy, of oppression, of capitalism, because those mindsets and those entities are literally choking us. It's literally burning us to the stake. It's literally pulling our babies out of the bosoms of our Black women. It's literally running up into our homes and killing us for no reason. You see what I'm saying? And so you, whether you're Black or you're not, you have a responsibility to, not only a moral responsibility, not only a civic responsibility, but whether you are Hindu, you're a part of the Judaism tradition, you're Buddhist, you're Muslim, you're Christian, it doesn't matter. At the root of all that there is a ideal that treat others whether that you want to be treated. You have even a religious responsibility to to advocate for Black people's experience, to be better, to be just, to be loving and caring toward us. So thank you again, my friend, a mentor to so many. I just can't thank you enough, man. I think that somebody's gonna be really empowered by this. So see y'all in the next interview. We'll probably interview you again, man, because this is incredible. So
To God be the glory, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. All right, take care.
All right, peace.
Thanks so much for listening to the Why We Protest podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Most importantly, reach out to my brother Chinedu Nwokeafor. He can be reached at www.chinedu.com or www.thechinedu.com. Please reach out to him, show him love, give him encouragement, let him know that you raise your fist with him. In the book of Amos chapter 5 verses 23 and 24, Amos writes, "Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps. But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." Happiness and health, love and peace.